Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollow Hearts 101 with Dr. Jacqueline Del Rosario, America's marriage coach. We're continuing our 8-part series about Pragma Love. This is our third rendition, and so if you haven't heard already, go ahead and listen to our episodes about agape and philaltia love, which is unconditional love and self-love, to help you get a refresher for this episode. But don't worry, if you just want to listen to this episode and tune in, this is the perfect time to do it. Today, Dr. Jacquie is joined by Homestead Poppy, also known as Alex Del Rosario, her son, and we'll be able to talk about and get some good feedback about what long and enduring love is, what it could be, and the barriers to this fairy tale love that very few people actually see or even be able to sample, but everybody wants. So this episode's full of great nuggets, great reflections, and great banter. So you're in for a treat. So go ahead and strap in, get your notepad out, and get ready for another episode of Hollow Hearts 101.
Hey everybody, it's Dr. Jacquie here. And again, we're continuing our discussion about love. So in this series, we're really at the end. We're talking about Pragma Love, which is the enduring love that most of us always envision when we look at two old couples walking down the sidewalk together, holding hands. It's where we want to get to, but we really don't know the pathway there. So hopefully through our conversation today, we'll be able to find greater understanding of what Pragma Love is going to look like in your mind's eye. And at this time, I want to welcome also with us is Alex, also known as Homestead Poppy. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing fantastic.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I hope you will chime in and really give some good information about what you understand about Pragma Love. For me, Pragma Love takes a lot of twists and turns. I think that when we think about what it looks like in our mind's eye, we have to recognize that a lot of what we see in our imagination about Pragma Love has been contrived by what we've experienced in movies and entertainment. You know, unfortunately, we love fairy tales, but us women, we really learn to romanticize love to such an extent that it's always something that's ultra normal, super normal. I mean, you know, you're thinking about someone sweeping you off your feet, that every kiss is seasoned with milk white teeth, and, you know, this romantic sense of ecstasy that's so amazing. So, you know, in light of that, I mean, even the best guy and the greatest romance can kind of pale in light of that sort of expectation. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of twists and turns.
Give me what's the name of this love?
Pragma Love, which is built on commitment, understanding. It's normally seen as long term.
So I'll actually ask Dr. D a question, or Dr. Del Rosario. Dr. Jacquie, I don't know which one she goes by.
It's Dr. Jacquie.
Dr. Jacquie. So since you've been in a successful marriage for going on or over 30 years now, first, do you have Pragma Love for your spouse, your husband? And then 2, when did you develop it? Because if it's
now, first
lasting,
of all, I thought that this was my
podcast.
And then I'm supposed to be the one asking the questions. Now I'm being interviewed.
That's why you're not supposed to have me as a guest, because I don't believe in doing stuff the normal way.
Well, just for the listeners that don't know, Alex is also my son.
Well, they didn't need to know that.
Yeah, also known as I said, AKA Homestead Poppy. But at any rate, yes, I do believe I have Pragma Love. And I just want to be very honest. I mean, very real. Like I said, it takes a lot of twists and turns, you know, because as we go through this evolutionary process, you're no longer able to love the same person that you married 30 years ago. They don't look the same. They don't act the same. And if they got a little arthritis, they might not even walk the same. So everything about it is different. So the process requires falling in love with them again, over and over again, each new version of them. It also requires, and this is a really key point, not just falling in love with them, but choosing them again. Because I think a lot of us kind of hold that little ace in the pocket like, well, I don't know if I want to deal with this for the rest of my life. Well, you got to make a choice. You know, am I going to still love you and then also choose you as you are? Because, you know, we can't be worried about, are they going to change? Can they change? Do I choose the person that's before me right now?
So then that just leads me to ask another question
Oh, here we go.
But I believe that this question is very important. So I think that what you just said was profound, because a lot of people, when they come into marriage, they're coming as one thing, believing that this one thing is going to be something. So if they don't even know, like me, that there's a word for a long-lasting love called pragma, which I'm still having trouble saying, they're already at a disadvantage, because they're actually under an illusion that the same love is supposed to be everlasting.
Now, there you go.
As is. So really what you're saying is like, hey, no, like there's going to get to a point where we're going to have to make a decision to have that, it's to almost have like a renewed love.
Exactly.
All over again.
You know how you have Microsoft Office Suite and you always have to keep upgrading it? You got the 1.0. Some of y'all are still using 1.0 when you're really on 3.0. You know, it's 7.0 now. So all of those different versions of Word is still Word, but it's the newer, improved after time, experience, and a lot of work has been done. You arrive at the 7.0. And here's the thing about it to me, you are taking a risk, because you never know who that person's going to really become. Just because they're who they are now, all fine and fly and everything now, you don't know what they're going to be like 10 years from now, 30 years from now. And so here's the thing that I think about, that I think is important about what you said. People are at a disadvantage, because if they don't know that there's twists and turns, and if they're still pursuing the same love that they had when they said, I do, that love no longer exists anymore.
Exactly.
So you might be leaving a good, perfectly good woman or a perfectly good man because you're chasing what you had, when what you had is no longer in existence. Today, we're living in a world where the world we live in today is not the world that we thought we lived in just last year. That world no longer exists.
Literally.
It's the same thing with your relationship. And, you know, it brings me to a really important point, because what I want to say is acceptance to me is really key. And I want to really unpack that, because I found that in any relationship, a lot of times we hold judgments about the people that we love, whether it's our parents, whether it's our friends, whether it's our siblings, whether it's our mates. You know, we have judgments, things that we make about them that we don't like, that we wish were different. And I think that this is really the grounds of separation for a lot of really good relationships, because we're chasing something that really doesn't exist. Perfection. Everybody's breath stinks in the morning. Now I'm gonna put a period at the end of that. And my point being that nobody is perfect. So I think that in relationships, if you don't understand what it is to accept people with their beauty, with their flaws, you'll never really be able to fully love or fully be loved. Because as this person is going through their evolutionary process, Pragma Love is saying, I choose you again as you are. If you don't ever change, if you don't ever get better. And I think that one of the things that is abrupt in our relationships, our relationship capacity, our ability for our relationship to grow on, so something that handicaps that, is this issue of judgments and an inability to accept people. For example, most of us, when we get married or when we decide we let our hearts fall in love with someone, we do so because they've told us who they are. They said, one day I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna build this kind of house, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna do that. And we don't just fall in love with the person that's sitting in front of us, we really fall in love with them and the idea of who they're gonna be. The problem is that most people never become those things. So then in that relationship, you're upset and pissed off because they told you that they were going to do this and they were going to be this, and they never do. So part of what you're in love with is a concept of who they could be. So we're talking about potential.
Hello and welcome to Hollow Hearts 101 with Dr.Jacquie Del Rosario, America's Marriage Coach. At Hollow Hearts 101, we always give a time for you guys to reflect and think about what was just said. In this particular episode, Dr. Jacquie is talking about falling in love with potential and learning how to love your spouse again. Have you fallen in love with potential in the past? What have you learned from that relationship? Secondly, if you are in a relationship and you're going through a little bit of conflict, a little bit of tension, what are you doing to learn to love the new version, the evolved version, the more refined version of your partner? Take this time to take notes or even just marinate on these questions and think about answers as we go into the next section of this podcast.
Thing about potential is that it is potential, but it is not for certain. So it is a gamble. And so those judgments that we make create these barriers between us and a really good relationship. And they also inhibit the person from really becoming who they could be. Because there's something about when someone makes a judgment about you. When they make a judgment about you, it almost creates this barrier inside of you that will not allow you to become. Does that make sense? It's like if I criticize you about your weight and say you need to lose weight, you'll probably start gaining more weight, even though in your mind you want to lose weight. But the judgment about you puts a burden on you that makes it very difficult to surpass, right? And so I think it's the same in relationships. Relationships create mirrors for us. They help us to see things about ourselves that we don't like in someone else, but we don't realize that it's in us. So we just always make the judgment about the other person. And it inhibits the other person from changing and becoming. But then it also keeps us from loving fully and being loved fully in return, if that makes sense.
Yeah. One of the things that I felt like I got from what you said is I always think like, man, so how could people that don't know what this thing is, that are either getting married or already married or newly married or just already, 5-10 years in it, how can they basically save a possible disaster from happening due to their ignorance? And then I thought about something, and been to a few weddings, but almost every wedding they say the same vows. And really, if you don't believe or really mean the vows that you're saying, then that's how you get to the point where you don't even really know what Pragma Love is. See, I didn't know what it was by definition, but when I'm hearing it, it's the basic vows: for better, for worse, health and sickness, rich or poor. That's stuff that's forever. Like, it's literally saying like, hey, when you're young, you look good. When you're old and decrepit, when you're in the hospital, when you're thriving, when you hit hard times. And it's like, if you really just believe that, you already have Pragma Love even in the beginning, because you already
have decided.
You aren't checking it every 5 to 10 minutes to say, hey, am I so happy? Hey, am I so happy? You don't even care about really being happy. Like, of course you should be happy, but when you're starting a business, you're a business owner. You don't care about how you feel in the first year or two of you starting a business. You're just trying to get it
to where it has to be.
To where it has
profitable.
to be. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I think the big problem with marriages, relationships in general, is people care too much about how they feel all the time, instead of the purpose that this relationship is supposed to have for their life, for their kids, for the generations that are to come, for the community, for the world, basically. So that's what I got from actually hearing you talk. I know you didn't say that, but you answered,
that's exactly what I say all the time. That first of all, I think that we forget that marriage is itself an evolutionary item. Marriage was never about love, but now it's so much about love and how you feel. I love the way you put that. How you feel. I say it's not just about love. It became about love, and then after the industrial age. But prior to that, people understood it was a partnership. It was something that we use as a vehicle for us to do life with someone, to create a better outcome. But I want to hold before listeners also that marriage is just as much about who you create as individuals to inhabit the planet. What kind of children are you going to have? How are you going to raise them? How are they going to impact their world and their society? I think that that's just as important. And I think we need to rely less on feeling, because emotions are temporal. They change every minute. And I think we rely too much on people making us happy or us feeling happy in a relationship. Happiness is great. I wouldn't be in one if I wasn't happy, but I understand that I am the creator of my own happiness. I cannot expect my husband to do that for me. Some people are just miserable and then they expect somebody to make them happy. Come on now. Bring your happy with you.
Yeah. And lastly, I want to say for these listeners that I don't know, if you ever seem like, man, he sounds a lot like Dr. D, I mentor her all the time for free like that. So now I'm kind of upset because I'm finding out she has this podcast and she's making money apparently off of the advice that I give her. So
Well,
I'm going to have to leave now because I don't think that I can afford to keep
giving away your jewels. Yeah.
I have a question for both of you. Why do you feel as most of these, I think with the high divorce rates that we have around 40 to 50%, why do relationships never hit the stage of pragma love? Why do they never hit that outside of emotions? Or is it just the emotions, the culprit itself?
I really believe from my own practice that it has a lot to do mostly with that. Now let's just cut out what we're not talking about. We're not talking about people that are in abusive or toxic relationships. An abusive relationship is one where you are hit, struck, where you're being mentally or verbally abused, where people are just so cruel and wicked and they get in your head and rent space there and make you feel horrible about who you are with it. It's just ridiculous. We're not talking about that. We're talking about just ordinary, regular relationships. Most people, first of all, that I have been seeing in my practice, if they're unhappy for 6 months in their relationship, they're either getting separated or going directly into divorce. 6 months that you're unhappy. I've been at my job for over 6 months and not been happy, and I'm still on my job, right? But for a relationship, we seem to feel that it's the other person's responsibility, that we have to feel this way all the time. When we know, just like there's 4 seasons in the world, right, in society, there's also seasons in your marriage. Most of them aren't 6 months long. Hopefully some can be shorter, but we also have to understand that when you start arguing and fighting, it creates animosity. So it makes you hypersensitive and more of a negative mindset, so that it tends to reoccur more and more. But we'll stick it out on our job. We'll figure out what we got to do, or try to maybe find another job. But I feel that people they're not really cognizant of the fact that it's normal. When you start to feel tension in your relationship, it's an indication that you need to change something. What do you want to change? You're asking. What needs to be changed? Very easy. What is usually the subject of the arguments? Usually it's going to center around the same thing. Different story, different scenario, but it's on the same issues. It could be issues around family. It could be issues around finances. That's your indication. That's where you need to dig, and that's what you need to fix.
What are your indicators? What are the things in your relationship that cause arguments? Have you taken the time to identify why those things are causing you pain? Have you gone to a counselor? Have you really even identified what the pain point is? Are you arguing about the table when it's really about sex and intimacy? Are you arguing about clothes when it's really about your finances? Have you pinpointed the source and the pain points in your arguments? Take this time to figure out what those arguments are, or what they have been, or what they could be.
Say about that, Alex?
I just got a text from my publicist. He told me not to say anything else further. But no,
We'll go ahead and throw us a bone for you, Sir Alex.
But I will say that I think that she's 100% correct. It's, to me, it's all about your mindset. Everything in life that I'm starting to see, the more that I mature, is about your mindset. What is your perspective? Because if you have the wrong perspective, you're never going to achieve the things that you're hoping to achieve. So it doesn't matter how much you work. I mean, work is important. Like, it doesn't matter how smart you are. That's important too. Education, your work ethic, it's gonna help. But if you have the wrong game plan or the wrong ideology, it's never gonna manifest to what you're hoping for, because that's the wrong recipe. So if you wanted to have a PB&J sandwich and you don't have peanut butter and jelly, you're never gonna create a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Again, see, oh Lord, my publicist. See.
Those were gems too. Oh my God.
That's in a book.
Yeah.
I haven't even released it yet. So
God.
I must stop my portion. It's been lovely.
But I'm sure that the listeners are really going to. They're so grateful. Their hearts are just overflowing with gratitude.
I hope so, because that's like
that you're giving up too much.
That's thousands of dollars. I know.
Well, let me go ahead and write this check right now, so that you can feel free enough to go ahead and share.
Man.
Yeah, but I totally agree. I think a friend of mine, Dr. Cindy Trim, says it very well. She says, wrong concept, wrong outcome. So if you have the wrong understanding of something and you're working with that understanding, you'll never get that outcome that you expect, because you're working at the wrong thing in the wrong way. So I think that that's powerful.
What do you say to those people who are in those 6 months, who are in the thick of it? Because it sounds good when you're not in the thick of a turbulent situation. But when you're in turbulent situation, how can you see Pragma Love as the outcome?
It sounds so much better when you see that this is normal. When somebody says, "Oh, this is the way that it is," then you don't feel alien. And then you are able to shift and realign your expectations with reality, right? So that's the first thing. Number two, I've already said, you need to figure out what is the cause and understand. I just feel like the diagnosis is really important. And let's not be misdiagnosed. So you're going to figure out, what are we arguing about most of the time? What is that area? And start digging there. So if it's finances, that means you need to see somebody. And here's the thing. We go to a doctor every year to do an annual physical. We go take care of our car and tune it up and change the oil and junk every year. But we are reticent about going to a counselor, a coach, or a therapist. Come on now. That is, if you talk about crazy thinking, if you think about it, that's stupid. Because you want to have a long enduring relationship. You don't really know how to do it. You're having difficulty, but you're not going to see somebody. How much could you really care? And one of the things that I look at, I remember one lady I spoke to, she was like, "I don't care." I was like, well, if you don't really put in the work, you'll get divorced. She says, "I don't care. I'll just have to get divorced then." And I said to her, I said, but you understand that if you're mad because he's not helping you now, you'll be doing it by yourself soon, right? That there's going to be money you're going to put into a divorce attorney. Marriage disillusionment is, it costs money. You're going to have to pay for that. You're going to have to pay for the mediation. You're going to have to pay whatever it's going to take for you now to start living by yourself and breaking apart what you've built together. So there is a cost on either end. One cost leads to something bright over the rainbow, right? And then the other one leads to certain disruption, difficulty, and loss. So to me, it's like you just decide which one you want to sow into, which one you want to put the work into. It's really kind of simple for me.
How crucial, this is my final question, how crucial is respect and honoring the other person when it comes to Pragma Love?
I think it's very important. But like I said, let's go back to accepting the person. I don't think you can respect someone that you don't really accept, because you're already judging that they're not as good as you. Because you're saying that whatever they do or don't do is bad and you got it together, right? And so one thing I want to do is I want to talk to our male audience just for a second. Somebody asked me, I was at some sort of an event, I think it was a church event, and they were talking about the divorce rates and why are they the same in the church as in, the world. And it was clear to me. I understand that men are different than women. We get that. It doesn't mean that what they think is right, though. I believe that a lot of the thought processes, if you understand the way that psychologists and the science is described, and we ourselves describe the difference between a man and a woman. A man is supposed to prefer over love, respect, whereas a woman wants love and security, right? Respect. What does respect look like for a man? If it's prideful, I don't care whether it's in a male body or a female body, it's not going to serve the other person. I believe that when we look at your well-being is my responsibility. My well-being is your responsibility. When we stop thinking I, and start thinking about you, then the person's thinking about you, you're thinking about them, and everyone's needs are taken care of. I just feel that a lot of times we have so much I that we are unable to respect. We're unable to fully love. We're unable to fully support the other person. And I think that what we need to really make sure that we mitigate is resentment, which will accrue very quickly if we're not careful.
Mm-hmm. Alex, do you have clearance on your publishers to speak on respect, Flair?
Oh, no, I've already written a check, so go ahead and weigh in on that last one, please, sir.
Okay, well, I really don't have too much to say except as a male, men want to be respected, and usually that's above all else.
But you know that respect usually means praise.
Well, that's not my definition of respect.
So if you could share yours, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I'll have to quote Sister Aretha. I mean, RESPC. I mean, I really don't know what to say.
But what does respect look like? Okay, because let me give you some examples in my practice, what I encounter. A woman will say, I was just telling him that I like that he's done so and so, but could we try doing this and so and change a little bit in this area? And the man gets upset and feels like he's being criticized. How can you tell a man an area of weakness so that they don't feel like they're disrespected?
Simply by talking to the facts. I think that the problem is a lot of women are so emotional that they throw the facts in with their emotion, and that confuses men. Because your emotion isn't factual. Your emotion is your experience.
This is true.
And then your emotion talks louder than the facts that you that you really are trying to get through. So then the man is only hearing the emotions, which sounds like an attack, which is sometimes disrespectful to him as a man, as an entity outside of whatever he needs correction on.
So what I hear you saying is really the emotions that y'all don't like. Because if they just looked, held to the facts and just tried to say it emotionally.
A perfect example is, but it's funny always seeing female versus male perspective, because a woman has to ask, what is your definition of respect? A man would never ask another man that. It's almost instinctive. So like, in other words, this is what I will say. I've seen men all the time correct other men, and it's never taken that way because men know when and when not to disrespect, and they know certain words, certain tones that are automatically are going to be.
But listen, you gotta send this to your publicist. I know how to put you on the map. I mean, you won't even need to talk to me anymore. If you could boil that down into a teaching, billions. Forget about millions. No.
I'm not trying to talk right now.
I need this to go on the record right now that I told you.
I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing right now by even talking right now. What? I don't even know what airway we're on. I don't know anything. But yeah.
But like what you just said is profound. That men know how to correct other men. Well, then this is a big secret that women want to know.
Well, I think it's rooted in fact. Because if you say to a man, you put the tire on wrong, we need to go to the shop to fix it. How did I put it on wrong? Well, functionally speaking, you missed some spokes, the tire's loose, we need to fix it. A woman won't go through that same process of telling you the tire's wrong. Well, you destroyed the car.
It's true.
It's a multiplication thing. One thing my father has always told me is that men talk by division, women talk by multiplication. They amplify. So whatever they're going through is not that they're wrong, it's just an amplification because their emotions are tied to their communication pattern.
Okay, so here. Do you notice how we went full circle back to what? Acceptance? Because now look, a woman can't really change the fact that she's a woman. But she can change maybe the way that she communicates. But then why shouldn't the man also change the way that he wants to hear it? See, to me, when you start talking like that, you're saying that one person is right and one person is wrong. I think that's wrong. I think that what should happen is that both parties should change and come to someplace in the middle. A man shouldn't need to hear it that way, and a woman shouldn't need to say it that way. They should, because you're saying that the woman is wrong. Think about even the definition. She multiplies or amplifies where the man just wants to hear the facts.
No, I said the man divides. So there's
Okay.
like one that's amplifying and one that's simplifying, where the happy medium is in between.
But what happens is there's never a median in
I
between.
think that's where we're at.
One party is always expecting that the other party is wrong and that they need to come over to their side.
I wish I didn't have the answers. I
Yeah,
wish
go
that I
ahead,
did
go
not
ahead.
have the answers.
Go ahead.
But I
Hit us
really
with
don't
it.
want to say it.
Go ahead and hit us with it. We can
It's as simple
we can
as
edit this out.
Yeah, for real. So Dr. Jackie's correct, and Xavier is also correct. That's the host with the mysterious
Teach us,
voice.
teacher.
That's asking these mysterious questions. His name's actually Xavier. See, I'm just here to out everything now. So what it is everything in life has to have priority. If a man's respect is his number one priority, then a woman's communication to not disrespect needs to be a high priority. Watch this. If any man has ever been with a woman that has periods or menstrual cycles, or has been pregnant, that's something that we can't understand. So there has to be, during that time, with certain things, you have to make it a priority to not act out because they're being whichever type of way. Like, it would now be cruel of you as a man to be holding your pregnant wife to a certain standard when their body is changing, their hormones are changing, everything like that. Like, if you don't have that type of presence of mind to understand that, then that woman's going to resent you for a very long time. And it's the same exact thing. If a woman understands that a man, most men, I'm speaking, broadly, so there's men that are different, but I think it's safe to say most men would have respect, and if not one, it's definitely.
But I'm going to disagree with you kindly.
Yeah, of
because
course.
you're still saying that one way is wrong. So why is your
No.
Listen,
Okay,
listen.
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm saying that the priority of a woman is to feel loved and secure.
Correct.
So if she's going to tell that man about that doggone tire, for her, that's her priority. She does not feel safe. And this is the thing that a lot of men that I tried to explain don't understand. When you argue with a woman or have a disagreement, she needs to know two things really importantly. That you understand what it is that she's saying that needs to change, and that you tell her how it's going to be changed from that point on. That's the reason why women go on and on and on, because you've not given them what they need to feel secure. So I don't think that is the man's priority, and so she needs to do that except when she's pregnant or having a period.
No.
I feel like
I wouldn't say that.
at all times, both people's priorities need to cause them to find a middle road.
Correct.
The man can't expect that he's not going to be criticized and praised all the time, and he can't expect for her not to talk with emotion. That's crazy. We're emotional. We know that. We're your other side, right? A woman needs to understand that she needs to bring that mess down, and that she needs to stick to the cliff notes and to the facts. But what we do know is, I believe, because there's so much pride on both sides, but I believe also on the male side, they have this misconstrued idea of what respect really is, and it's misaligned. Is that respect from the maker? Is that what he considered respect? Can't be. I don't think it is. Because if you look at cultures and you look at what other men from different nations considered respect to be, it's different. In the United States of America, we're more macho. You have some island nations where you have men from the Caribbean. There's another idea of what a man is, But then you can go to Africa, you can go to different into the Middle East, and in a lot of those places, there's what we consider to be oppression. A woman can't speak, she can't be as free with what she thinks and whatnot. But it's not always, and it hasn't always been that way. So I just believe you respect each person, and that will give you the impetus to try to find a way to coalesce somewhere in the middle.
I agree. What I was doing was I like to use extreme examples so that the point is understood. So that extreme example of the menstrual cycle and pregnancy is just that. It's literally just to say, I know guys that will complain about a woman being a woman. A woman, if a woman's to get pregnant, like she's gonna go through pregnancy, that's part of the plight of being a woman, a menstrual cycle. So don't misconstrue what I'm saying. What I'm actually saying, remember, I agree with you and you, Xavier, and I agree with Dr. Jacquie. The only difference in what I'm saying is really it's about a balance, but there's certain priorities. So there's always that overall balance. I think that's more common sense where everything has to have a balance. It can't be day all day. It has to be 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of none. So everything is a balance. So of course a guy can't always just be demanding respect and stuff like that. But one thing that I will disagree on, since she disagreed with me, I'm gonna disagree with her, is that I've traveled all around the world and every single culture, I've been to every single continent except Antarctica and Australia. And my best friend lived in Australia.
No, but before you go on your little soliloquy, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about historically.
All right, cool.
I'm talking historically.
Well, I'm also really good at Jeopardy, and I know a lot of history as well. So I'm still disagreeing.
Okay, so, well, let's go on record.
Because when you go around the world, see, the importance that respect has to a man is still number 1, 2, or 3. What it looks like is what is what Dr. Jacquie's hinting at, but everywhere, respect for a man in any culture around the world is top 3 to any man, whether you're Asian, you're African, you're North American, you're European, I can keep on going, Australian, it doesn't matter. Respect is top 3 things that any man wants. What it is the culture allows it to look completely differently from thing to thing. So when you go to Asia, the way that what they consider respect is not what we can consider respect, but it's respect, and they'll use that same exact word. And men will lose their mind in any culture, in any country, when they feel like they've been disrespected. So that's what I'm saying. I'm talking about I'm talking in general because it encompasses everybody.
I got you. But I think that what I'm saying is that I think this whole notion of what respect is and what respect isn't is different. If you can't hear a criticism, whether somebody has emotion in their voice or not, to me, that's a problem.
That's a big problem.
That's a really big problem. So with that, we're going to close. I hope that our listeners got an earful and that I hope that we've given you something to really think about, because I've had this thought path for myself where I kind of map my feelings about my long-term relationship. And I wanted to know, did I really accept? Did I really love? And was I really choosing over and over again? And sometimes when you have that exercise, you'll find that there's an area that you're stuck on. Work through it. Keep thinking through and answering the questions as they come up until you answer them all and you find your next place. Having said that, I'm signing off. Dr. Jacquie, loving you all. Be kind to yourself.
Hello, I hope you guys were able to take notes. There was a lot of different things being said. Men divide and simplify, women amplify. Man's capacity to respect should not trump his capacity to understand and take criticism. The communication patterns between men and women are different. However, there must be a happy medium in order for both of these people to come together, agree, and for the relationship to thrive. There are so many nuggets in this last section. So I encourage you to take a listen, take time to reflect, and go ahead and review one of the biggest and more impactful episodes thus far in our history of Hollow Hearts 101. Thank you for listening. Comment, like, and subscribe, and give us your insights. Share it with a friend. Do you agree with Dr. Jacquie? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Alex? We'll make sure that Alex's publicist doesn't get in the way of you hearing these great moments. But until next time, take care and have an awesome week.